Hello, you're watching James. My name's James, you're watching me, and I am talking about watches. Today I'm going to be doing a state of the collection video. Now, if you've been watching my channel for a while, you would have noticed that I put out a state of collection video about 6 months ago. And I have to admit, I wasn't planning on doing another one for a while. I think about once a year is about the right sort of frequency of releasing a state of the collection video. However, in the past 6 months, there has been a significant change in my core collection. There has been a significant shift in how I'm thinking about collection, and I've also increased the size of my collection by a fair amount. Now, if you do know me, if you've been watching my videos, you'll know that I'm very careful with how many watches I have in my collection. You'll understand that I can't afford to spend too much money or have too much money sort of invested into my collection. So I'm very, very careful about how many I have, not allowing the collection to get too big. I sell watches to buy other watches, and I'm very mindful of how much I invest in each individual watch. However, over the last 6 months, I've kind of moved away from what I know I should be doing, and I've bought some extra watches, and I haven't sold some, and I've invested a little bit extra in some watches as well. However, I am really happy with the collection, and I love every single piece that I have. And what I've always decided to do if I'm doing a state of the collection video is to do it when I get to a point where the collection maybe looks a little bit different, and also when I've done a bit of a fire sale, when I've sold off the watches that I'm okay to sell and sort of refund my watch budget, ready to buy some more watches. So now I'm back to my sort of core collection, what I call my core collection, the watches that I'm not okay with selling, or at least I'm not okay with selling at this point. I'm certainly wanting to hold on to them because I am wearing them and am enjoying them. But let's flip the camera around. Let's see how this collection has changed since my last State of the Collection video. And let's see what I've added, what I've subtracted, and why I have these ones in my collection. And guys, if you haven't subscribed to the channel, I really would appreciate if you just click on that subscribe button. But let's flip the camera around now and let's check out my collection. So my collection has definitely grown over the last 6 months. So I'm not going to spend too much time on each individual watch. I'm just going to tell you why I bought it and why I love it so much and why it is in my collection. And then we can move on. If you want to check out any full reviews of these watches, in my back catalogue of videos, there's reviews and more information and more videos about every single one. But firstly is my Hamilton Jazzmaster Traveller 2 GMT. What a stunning watch. This was a real sort of a step sideways for me when it came to watches because it has a very dressy look but has a sort of bit of an everyday look. It didn't come with this bracelet, but I added this one on, but it is the official one that comes for this model of watch. It has a silver dial, GMT, just beautiful. And it was a watch that I really, really wanted, but I was a bit scared about buying because I thought it might be a little bit expensive or a little bit big, but it actually looks fantastic on wrist. I like wearing this one a little bit loose. But oh yeah, I think that is just a beautiful watch. And I have to say it's probably my favorite watch in my collection and probably my favorite watch of all time. Next we have my Longines Hydro Conquest. This was in the collection in the last day of the collection and it's been with me for the last couple of years. This was a birthday present, probably my most expensive watch at the time. This watch is absolutely incredible. It is probably my favorite sort of black-faced diver out there. I think the value for money you get for this is incredible, but also the finishing of it, the movement of it, the looks of it, and just how it sits on wrist. And this thing probably performs best compared to every other watch that I have in my collection. I'll be surprised if this gets less than plus 1 second per week. It is absolutely incredible. And I just love wearing it because I think it sits beautifully on wrist. I think having a nice quality black face diver, you sort of can't go wrong having one of those in the collection. I'm very lucky to have this one. Next is my Oris Artelia small second date, my watch that I call the Tuxedo. This is by far the most expensive watch that I have bought. It was a little bit of a stretch and I did actually end up having to sell a couple of watches to fund the purchase of this one. But I think this thing looks so gorgeous that I just really want it in my collection. When I saw a picture of it about a year ago, I saw it and thought, wow, that is stunning. I need to find one of those. And it's been a bit of a journey. It took a long time, firstly, just to find any of these watches out there, let alone something at a price that I could actually afford. I think it's just beautiful. It's a beautiful dress watch, but it's a watch that I certainly wear outside of dressy circumstances as well because I just think it's a lovely watch to wear. And I think it just looks absolutely gorgeous on wrist. It's a beautiful size, not too small, not too dainty, but also nice and thin, but also just looks fantastic, really. I think this is one of the prettiest watches in my collection. And we have my Seiko Pogue. This was a watch that my dad bought in the early 80s. He bought it secondhand. He wore it for quite a few years before he ended up killing it because he tried to use it diving. Since then, it sat in a box for many, many years. I eventually asked if I could have it. He was happy to give it to me, and I ended up having it fully restored. And that was before I even knew that the Seiko Pogue was actually something a little bit special. It was just a watch that was a bit special to me because it was my dad's and he wore it so much. But I did spend a bit of money getting it fully restored. The inside was all a bit of a mess because there had been water sitting there for 20 years. The crystal was completely scratched to the point where you couldn't actually see the dial. But I just love having it because it was my dad's. But I actually also like it because of the story. But I also just like it because I like it, and I like it on wrist too. And I do try and wear this one as much as I can. And it's just such an easy watch to wear and a fun one to wear. Yeah, a little bit different. Probably not something I would have initially picked if I was sort of trying to find a vintage watch, but I'm so glad that I end up with in my collection because I absolutely love it. Next we have my Steinhardt, the vintage military one. I think it's an Ocean one. I think it's about a 42mm case. This has probably turned out to be my most worn watch. I wear this one a lot. It's just one that I reach for all the time. It's made so well, but looks so good. Everything about it is just fantastic. It was relatively affordable, or at least achievable to buy. It works so well. The movement's beautiful. It's a high beat Swiss movement, and I just love wearing it on wrist. And as I said, I wear this one a lot. And every time I do put it on, I just think, yeah, that just sort of fits me. It suits me. I really enjoy it. No date, has that vintage vibes, but it just feels so well made, and I just love the look of it. I think it is an absolutely fantastic watch, and definitely one of my favorites in my collection. And it certainly has to be if I wear it so often. Now we have my Glycine, I think it's called the Combat Classic Moon Phase. This is the first moon phase watch I've ever owned, the first Glycine I've ever owned, and I am so impressed by it. This one was meant to be about $1,000 Australian, but I got it on special for about 500. It has a beautiful Swiss ETA movement, or a Salida movement, I believe in it. It's just a lovely watch to wear. I really enjoy it. I think it looks fantastic. I think it's got a beautiful dial in it. I do like having that moon phase. I think that's fantastic as well. And just the quality sort of screams from this one. And I like that it's just a little bit different from my other watches in my collection. Yeah, every time I wear this watch, I just think, wow, that's a beautiful watch, a well-made watch, and it's something that I enjoy having on wrist. Gorgeous. Next, we have the first Aliexpress watch that I'm featuring, and I have to say it's actually turned out to be one of my favorite watches in all of my collection, even though it's a lot cheaper than probably every watch that you've seen so far. This is the Rodelin Turbine. This thing's a pilot watch. It's obviously a homage watch, but check out the back here. That's a seagull movement. It's a hand winding only movement, but it is absolutely beautiful, and I love to wind this. Love to look at the crown, see the little plane there. Love looking at that little turn by and going around it around. It's not the smallest watch in my collection. In fact, it's probably the biggest watch in my collection, but I just love wearing it, and I wear this thing a lot. Yeah, I'm so drawn to this. Every time I look at my watch box, I think, oh, I'm going to wear that watch. It's absolutely incredible. As you can see, it's certainly not the smallest watch in my collection, but I just love it. I think it sits nicely on my wrist. You know, yes, it is big on my wrist, but being a pilot style watch, I kind of give it a little bit of leeway there, but I just love wearing it so much that, yeah, it's going to stay in my collection for a long time, I think. And another Aliexpress watch that has stayed in my collection long term, and a watch that I really enjoy wearing. It's my Type B Flieger from Escapement Time. This thing is just a fun, interesting watch to wear. It's really well made. It's got a PT 5000 movement. You probably see the blue flashes on the hands there. Onion crown, nice size. Good quality leather strap that it's got on it, and it really was probably my gateway into pilot watches, because before buying this watch I was a little bit unsure about pilot watches and Flieger watches. I thought, oh yeah, they look okay, maybe I'll just buy one, and then I've ended up buying quite a few because I just really like the style. And this particular one, out of all the watches of the sort of pilot style, it's probably the one that sits best on my wrist, and I do wear this one lots. And as you can see, it just sits really nicely. Sits down, not too high on wrist, fits within my wrist, nice strap. Yeah, lovely. Really like this on wrist. And something a little bit different, I got my pocket watch. Now this pocket watch isn't anything particularly special in regards to the manufacturer or who made it, but I bought this one when I went on a trip to the UK a few years ago. It was one of the things I wanted to do, was to visit all these little antique shops and markets and things and try and find myself a pocket watch. And I found something which I'm really, really happy with. I ended up getting it fully restored, which was probably overspending and over-investing in this particular watch. But now, on the odd occasion when I do wind it up, it runs particularly well. It's amazing, actually. It's really just a fun watch to have in the collection. Next we have my Junkers Bauhaus watch. Now I admit I bought this one thinking that it might be like a cheaper alternative to the Junghans Max Bill, but it's turned out to be a watch that I prefer over that Max Bill, so I'm never going to sell this one to upgrade to that one. There's no need. I think this one is fantastic. I love the extra little bit of details on the dial with the shield there. It contains a beautiful Swiss movement, a lovely watch to wear on wrist. I've put it onto this mesh bracelet, which I think suits it really well, gives it a little bit more wrist presence, and I think it's just a beautiful watch to have in the collection. And I think it just looks really cool on wrist as well. It's probably not a watch that I wear that often, but every time I look at it in my sort of watch box, I think, oh yeah, I do like that watch. I want to wear that more often. And when I do put it on, I certainly enjoy it. And of course, I still have my favorite Seiko of all time, my Seiko Samurai Save the Ocean Great White Shark Edition. Not only is it an amazing everyday dive watch or everyday wearing watch, but it has the best looking dial that I like on any watch. I love that Save the Ocean Great White Shark sort of pattern that's on there, the color of it. I particularly do love this Samurai case. I think it's fantastic. I did upgrade the bracelet to a Strapco bracelet, which I think is fantastic. It gives it a little bit more chunk on the wrist. I think it's just the best looking Seiko that's out there. Maybe not the best quality one compared to some of the others that are out there, but it's probably my favorite Seiko. And being a little bit heavier on this Strapco bracelet, I do wear it a little bit loose, but I think it looks absolutely fantastic. It's quite big this way, being sort of a Seiko dive watch, but being a Seiko dive watch, the lug to lug is not too big, so I think it looks fantastic on wrist. And of course, I've got my Seiko SKX 009, which is just such a classic watch, and I think it's a classic watch for a good reason, because every time I look at this watch, every time I put it on, I just think, wow, what a great watch. What a great watch to wear. What a great feeling of watch to wear. This one also has a Strapco bracelet, which really, I think, increases the sort of wrist presence and feeling of this watch. And yeah, just every single time I put it on, I just think that's probably the most comfortable watch that I have in my collection. That case, it just seems to sit down nicely on wrist, and I think there's a reason why this one is so popular and continues to be so popular even after it was discontinued. Well, I'm running out of room. I'll get the next watch and squeeze it in somewhere. This is the first automatic watch that I ever owned. My dad bought this for me when I was in my teenage years. This was my dive watch, the watch I wore diving for years and years and years. And I wore this for probably almost 10 years straight before I took it off wrist and moved on to some other things. Certainly probably overdue for a service by probably a decade, but it's a watch that I don't wear that often, so I'm probably not going to invest that extra money in it, certainly not at this point, but I'm absolutely going to keep it. It will never leave the collection. And I made this strap myself just to suit it, because I think it gives it a little bit more wrist presence, because it's not the biggest watch in the world, but I still think it looks quite good on wrist, especially with that sort of strap that I've made. I think it gives it a little bit of an interest factor, I think. And of course, I got my Bernie dress watch. This is probably the best super affordable automatic watch that I've ever come across. I paid around $50 for this thing, and it's just incredible. It's really, really well made, solid stainless steel. I think it has great classical looks. Really like the strap on it as well. See-through case back. How could you find a watch better for $50? I just don't think you can. And it's a watch that I still actually enjoy wearing. And I think it just looks really, really good on wrist. It's just a nice watch. And I do like it with this original strap. I have swapped it out a few times with other straps, but I keep coming back to this original one. It's nice quality, and it just suits the watch really, really well. Another Aliexpress watch, and a watch that has probably surprised me almost most out of any watch because of the quality of it. I think this thing is absolutely fantastic, and I really do enjoy wearing it. I think it not only is it a sort of a solid, heavy-duty sort of watch, but it comes with a nice strap. I really like the dial, I like the hands. It's just a watch that I really, really enjoy. I have to say, when I bought it, I was a little bit unsure. I thought it'd be a reasonable watch. Didn't expect it to sort of stay in my collection longer term though. So that is a bit of a surprise for me. And I really enjoy wearing this one. It's fantastic. It's obviously the Gustav Becker, the army style watch. This is a homage to a seagull watch, but I love it. I think it's fantastic. Again, it's not probably the smallest watch in my collection. I do tend to like bigger watches. I'm starting to understand that I do tend to like them a little bit bigger, but I just really enjoy this one. I like the quality and the look of it, and I just love wearing it. It's also nice to have a different color in the collection, a green dial and a green sort of strap. So that's kind of cool as well. And my Yema Rallygraph. This is actually the only quartz watch that's in my collection at the moment, and I think it's such a fantastic quartz watch because it's just a beautiful looking watch, a little bit different, like having the chronograph sort of functionality of it. The watch is really, really well made. Love the Milanese strap. And it's just a fun, interesting watch to have in the collection. And it's definitely a watch that I actually wear quite often. It's sort of one that I do sort of pick up and go, oh yeah, I want to wear that one today, because that's just a little bit different, a little bit fun. I just love the look of it. Fantastic. Now, I did just say that this is my only quartz watch in my collection, and that's actually not quite true. Today, I want to introduce you to my St. Moritz, which is a gift given to me by a good friend of mine. Thank you so much, Paul. Wonderful watch, this one. Has a beautiful bracelet on it. It's a quartz watch as well. Had a few issues with the battery and the case back. I had to sort of get my local watchmaker to do some work on this one. But it's so cool having a sort of a tank style watch in the collection. And it's actually quite one that I quite enjoy just wearing on my right wrist. There's like a bit of a bracelet. So let's check this one out on wrist. Just feels really nice. It's amazing, just a bit different as well. And I like that it's a bit different. It's nice to have some different watches in the collection. And it's nice, sort of a dressy sort of look, something you can wear out to dinner. Very, very cool. So yes, my collection has exploded. This is way more watches than I previously had, way more watches that I'm probably comfortable with. I like the idea of having sort of 5 to 10 at the most. Yeah, there's a few here. So in the distant future, or as time goes on, there might be 1 or 2 that do end up getting sold on, probably consolidate a little bit, maybe into a slightly better quality watch. But at the moment, I love each and every one of these watches so much that they are not going anywhere. But as I said, I'm going to keep my options open because a few of them may end up being sold in the long term. All right, guys, thank you so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. I'm glad I was able to fit these into frame. I should have probably thought about that a little bit more as I was laying out the watches, but that's okay. Thanks for watching. I do hope to see you in the next video.